of his kingdom. You would bring the good news throughout his reign. And you set out traversing seas and mountains. To all you preach the message of the Lord. You reach the Father's islands and their peoples, showing them God's forgiveness and his love. The head, you are a pilgrim, you are a sower. The seed you scatter is the good news. You reach all colors and races. There's only one Father, only one Lord. The head, through your example we see our mission. We must be witnesses, we must bring hope. We want to follow your footsteps and tell the people that God is love. Spread the gospel of your kingdom. Your life was filled with Jesus and his word. And you brought him to villages and peoples, just like Mary, her son gave to the world. We too will follow closely your example, the new Claretian family in Christ. We wish to be a beacon in the darkness, and to all bring the hope of a new life. The head, you are a pilgrim, you are a sower. The seed you scatter is the good news. You reach all colors and races. There's only one Father, only one Lord. The head, through your example we see our mission. We must be witnesses, we must bring hope. We want to follow your footsteps and tell the people that God is love. We want to follow your footsteps and tell the people that God is love. Of his kingdom, you would bring the good news throughout his reign. And you set out traversing seas and mountains. To all you preach the message of the Lord. You reach the Father's islands and their peoples, showing them God's forgiveness and his love. The head, you are a pilgrim, you are a sower. The seed you scatter is the good news. You reach all colors and races. There's only one Father, only one Lord. The head, through your example we see our mission. We must be witnesses, we must bring hope. We want to follow your footsteps and tell the people that God is love. Spread the gospel of your kingdom. Your life was filled with Jesus and his word. And you brought him to villages and peoples, just like Mary, her son gave to the world. follow closely your example, the new Christian family in Christ. We wish to be a beacon in the darkness, and to all bring the hope of a new life. Beloved, you are a pilgrim, you are a sower. The seed you scatter is the good news. You reach all colors and races. There's only one Father, only one Lord. Beloved, through your example we see our mission. We must be witnesses, we must bring hope. We want to follow your footsteps and tell the people that God is love. We want to follow your footsteps and tell the people that God is love. Jesus passed along your path one morning, and seeing you, he called you by your name. He would make you a witness of his kingdom. You would bring the good news throughout his reign. And you set out traversing seas and mountains. To all you preach the message of the Lord. You reach the Father's islands and their peoples, showing them God's forgiveness and his love. Beloved, you are a pilgrim, you are a sower. The seed you scatter is the good news. You reach all colors and races. There's only one Father, only one Lord. Beloved, through your example we see our mission. We must be witnesses, we must bring hope. We want to follow your footsteps and tell the people that God is love. Spread the gospel of your kingdom. Your life was filled with Jesus and his word, and you brought him to villages and peoples, just like Mary, her son gave to the world. We too will follow closely your example, the new Christian family in Christ. We wish to be a beacon in the darkness, and to all bring the hope of a new life. Beloved, you are a pilgrim, you are a sower. The seed you scatter is the good news. You reach all.
Let's put ourselves in the presence of our Lord, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Merciful God and Father, thank you for all the blessings you have bestowed upon us. We are truly grateful for all life, the gift of family, the gift of our parish and community. Thank you for allowing us today to meet and share despite this pandemic. May our knowledge and time be one with you in this Zoom session. May you extend your divine wisdom to our speaker, Reverend Father Victor Sadaya, CMF, so that he would impart effectively his God-given knowledge to all of us. Please bless all the participants as well, so that they would be able to absorb the learnings from this session. May you bestow your special blessings to all of us, so that we may be healed completely, be protected from this pandemic, and be guided by your Holy Spirit. And may you bless all the plans and programs of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, especially our Evangelization series. And this we ask in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Immaculate Heart of Mary, please pray for us. San Roque, pray for us.
Pray for us.
San Lorenzo Ruiz, pray for us.
Pray for us.
San Pedro Calungsod, pray for us.
Pray for
In the name
us.
of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy
Lord, and
Spirit.
of the Son,
Amen.
the Holy Spirit. Okay, good afternoon once again, and I'm not going to say much, but I'm going to give the microphone, turn it over to Kuya Bong Doctor so that he can introduce our speaker this afternoon.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Our invited speaker for this sixth session of the Ihmp Evangelization series will talk on the topic Living with Stress in the Time of Pandemic Crisis, a Psycho-Spiritual Perspective. Needs no lengthy introduction, but still please allow me to highlight his accomplishments. He is a Claretian missionary from Quezon City. He earned his Doctor of Philosophy in Organization Development from the prestigious Graduate School of Organization Development of the Southeast Asia Interdisciplinary Development Institute, or SAIDI. He has a master's degree in pastoral ministry from the Loyola School of Theology of the Ateneo University. He did special studies in formative spirituality, psychotrauma management and counseling, and pastoral management here and abroad. He was the first Filipino provincial superior of the Claretian missionaries in the Philippines. He served in the provincial government of the Claretians for 12 years in his capacity as provincial superior and prefect of formation and spirituality. He was president of St. Anthony Mary Claret College for 18 years, rector of the Claret Seminary, and formator for 26 years in the different formation levels of the Claretian missionary. Currently, he is the general manager of Radio Veritas Asia and the executive director of Portacelli Center for Psychotrauma Management and Counseling. He also holds a regular radio program, God Will Make a Way, at Veritas 846 every Sunday, 9 to 10 in the morning. Without much further ado, let's all express our warm welcome to a revered speaker and a well-loved Claretian, Reverend Father Victor F. Sadaya, CMF.
Okay, let's give him a virtual clap.
Thank you, Mia. Thank you, Bong, Marisa, for the introduction, and also thank you for this invitation. I think we have been it's easier to conduct a seminar today because from the comfort of your house, you can just open your computer or laptop and then you have it, without passing through the hazard of the traffic and the highway. I would like now to share with you, this one. Okay, are you able to see? Can you see my slide? Okay.
Yes, Father.
I hope I can. I'll try to be fast now because I have 94 slides. Actually, the original slide is 124. And I was advised by some of my friends who are also into giving a seminar to please reduce the slides. No? But anyway, I will not explain the slide one by one, but at least for you to get the message. No? Okay, why do I have this topic? Living with stress in the time of pandemic crisis. No, we are used to saying stress management. No, but we are entering into a what we call the new normal, and part of the new normal is to live is the stressful life we have, no, caused by the pandemic crisis. So we have to contend, no, with the situation. So we have to live with the stress that is brought by pandemic crisis. No? So um, okay, here. So how do you feel today? This is the problem now, no? When asking people how do you feel today, because the face is covered by mask, no? We have the mask, we have the face shield only in the Philippines, no? We are so overprotective, no? With all these, gadgets, so to speak, no? So how do you feel today? But anyway, whatever it is that you feel today, I hope you are in good disposition. So this is what this pandemic crisis has done so far to us. No, it has claimed thousands of lives. It continue to wreak havoc in all aspects of our daily life, steered restlessness, severe anxiety, and critical depression. And people may experience worries reaching unprecedented levels, lending heavy toll on the physical, the mental health. So far, there is no medicine or vaccine or no cure. So that this pandemic crisis will continue to haunt the entire humanity, in the global setting, and that's precisely what we are also experiencing here in the Philippines, no? Okay. Um, I'm having a little problem with the movement, no? In a minute. Okay. Okay. So I don't, it's not moving. It's my sorry that my is hanging, no. But anyway, please bear with me because this is actually part of the stress, no, that we have to contend with. Okay. Sorry. Okay, you know that this kind of pandemic is not actually new, no? Since probably in time immemorial, the humanity has been exposed to different type of virus, no? Like the one that you see that the number of affected people. Not like we have what we call the smallpox, 56 million, Spanish flu, and so on. We can go on with the different types of pandemic that has affected the humanity. And well, the one that I have here is just this is not updated, no, but it is increasing. No, we are already in millions. No, so first question to ask is, where were you before the pandemic crisis? And where are you now in the pandemic crisis? And where are your life moving or going post-pandemic? Hopefully, this will be over. So you know that it can be observed that there's so much growing materialism and consumerism, no, before the pandemic. No? The satisfaction of mostly of economic and the physical needs. But then during the pandemic or during the when we started sometime in March, there have been a lot of questions that have posted on us, no. And then later on, we have started to just think of what is essential. So we can go to a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or hierarchy of values, as we respond to the crisis situation and we try to look for ways to connect with God with some form of deeper meaning and purpose. I think some of you who must have been must experience some kind of anxiety during the onset of COVID must have this kind of experience, no, of anxiety and perhaps even depression. To tell you honestly, I also had that my experience myself. Now, even if I am very familiar with, with this experience of anxiety and depression, because when I deal with people who have anxiety and depression, that is precisely what I try to do to help. And then after the pandemic, no, we do not know how long we will be with this COVID-19, but we try to look for the goal of living life fully or meaningfully. The new normal would demand from us living with simplicity and the essentials and the longing to reunite with the Supreme Being, to stay safe for the rest of our lives. So before the pandemic, the philosophy of time has been the more is better. When you say the more is better, people are into wanting to have more power, wanting to have more control, wanting to have more possessions, the crave for popularity, titles, honors, more pleasure, more satisfaction. No? And these have been fueled by by the seven deadly sins, so to speak. No? The anger, gluttony, envy, greed, lust, pride, sloth. So, but such philosophy or orientation has been suspended. Now, when the pandemic crisis hit all of us, so do they really matter? The ones that I just mentioned, the more, do they really matter? No, these questions about having more uh, was also the experience of this famous person, no? Whose name will come out later on, no? And he had this realizations in life. No? I realized that all the accolades and riches of which I was once so proud have become insignificant with my imminent death. There comes a moment when you realize there is more important than wealth, stories of love. God has made us one way we can feel the love in the heart of each of us, and not illusions built by fame or money. I cannot take them all with me. I can only take with me memories that were strengthened by love. Material things lost can be found, but there is one thing that can never be found when it is lost. It's life. So if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? So this is actually words coming from Steve Jobs. No, we all know him, very familiar. So according to Anne Marie, no, Pauline Campbell, no, our focus has shifted from the supernatural to issues of life and death and human connection. All complacencies have been shattered. We have been forced to pause, to live with not knowing, to stand back from our lives and reevaluate, to think again how we spend our time and our resources. What matters enough to give energy to and what we can go without. The fact that we are on a collective journey is particularly powerful. So what are our responses to the pandemic? Especially the stress that is brought by this pandemic. The effect actually is more on the body, the mind, the emotions, and even our spiritual disposition. No? Okay? So try to look at this. Now these are just among some of the effects. No? Like we have on the body, headaches, frequent infections, taut muscles, muscular twitches, fatigue, skin irritations, breathlessness, among others. There are still more, but I do not mention any more the other, but there are a lot. And then with regard to our mental condition, worrying, muddled thinking, impaired judgment, nightmares, indecisions, negativity, hasty decisions, and then on the emotional level, the loss of confidence, more fussy, irritability, depression, apathy, alienation, apprehension, among others. As I said, there are still more, no? But I do not mention the other things. No? And then with regard to our behavior, of course, there is a change in our behavior, like accident, we become accident prone, we lose appetite, loss of sex drive, we tend to drink more, we experience insomnia, restlessness, smoking, and smoking more. No? And there are other behaviors that that is affected, no, by the stress that we have. Now, this new pandemic, the mental health illness, no, you see the effect. No? Perhaps this is from the point of view of social, psychological, biological, and mental. You see how they interact each other. No? So this anxiety or uncertainty creates fear, stress, anxiety, depression, and for some had triggered their comorbidities resulting in trauma. According to former WHO director in the Asia Pacific, Dr. Susan Mercado, said that fear and ignorance are the real enemy. Not actually the COVID, but our fear and ignorance about COVID. No? And according to World Health Organization, because of this pandemic, there has been an increase, no, of domestic violence. No? And there are also reports coming from UNICEF with the increase in child abuse, and in general, the number of suicides had increased. No? So these are very familiar with you, no? The some guidelines in coping with COVID-19 and keeping well. No? So we know COVID-19 stands for this. CO stands for corona, V for virus, D for disease. 19 is the year it was first identified. Now, some coping ways. No, we are very familiar already with this. No, I need not to expound. No, so first of all, it's just to focus on what is under our control rather than on what we cannot control. Another one is limit exposure to news and social media. So we are familiar, probably you may be familiar with the word infodemic. No, infodemic means the heavy consumption of news and social media, as this can increase distress and anxiety, and never engage in arguments about information, and be cautious about fake news. No, never forward any information about without verifying the source. No, and adhere only to reliable news sources, and then adapt to the new routine. So I don't, we are already almost 7 months, no, in the situation of pandemic, and hopefully we have already adjusted, no, to the new routine, no, which we call the new normal. To attend to the essential services, as this can give a sense of purpose and order. If you have been doing your work in the office, now you are advised to do your work from home. Actually, it's not just work from home, but work at home. No? Managing your time, agreeing with your community members, what activities you can do together. So adapt to the new normal. No? The new normal refers to new behaviors that the new behaviors changes after this pandemic. No? Doctors at the University of Kansas Health System anticipate that the coronavirus pandemic will change daily life for most people. So if we are thinking about going back prior to the pandemic, that would just be a wishful thinking, but it will never help if we will continue to hold on to the to the life prior to the pandemic. No? And this include limiting person-to-person contact like handshakes, hugs, additionally maintaining distance from others. No? So this is going to be this is actually already happening now. And then maintain good health. We know that already. Health, and then set aside to do things that you enjoy, and then make meaningful connections. I think this is something very important for us to create. The lockdown might make people feel isolated, and such can trigger anxiety and loneliness. Take initiative to reach out to significant people in your lives, like the family and circle of friends. No? While with the family at home, try to create meaningful encounters, no? Like engaging in meaningful conversation during mealtime. And then Pope Francis invites us to have a family prayer, no, at 9 p.m. And then share household chores, sharing faith experiences, give more emotional support, and avoid sending fatalistic messages. Okay. And then maintain discipline at home and office. I know that many, especially among officers, there are some reminders now to maintain safety and well-being atmosphere. And think positive thoughts and positive words protect the immune system and can make people. And then negative thoughts and negative words depress immune system, can weaken people. That's why it's better that we always have a positive outlook of our life. And then seek mental health intervention whenever you feel you cannot manage your situation. This is very important, brothers and sisters. When you observe that if you observe something about yourself, or if you observe any member of your family or your community having very difficult psychological adjustment, it's better that you avail himself or yourself of some counseling services. There are actually counseling services that are done online. And then number 10 is practice compassion and 5 ways to assist those who need the most support in this crisis. And then deep breathing. It's very important to have this kind of exercise, do deep breathing. And then number 12, practice mindfulness. These are probably some of the exercises that we are not very used to, but it's good. It helps a lot, this kind of practice of mindfulness. And then number 13, understanding our problems. Awareness and insights are needed to start making changes in life. And then 4 major elements that contribute significantly to the issue. Knowledge is power, and elaborating upon these 4 major elements can give insight we need to bring about necessary change. There is an entanglement with thoughts. So what memories, memories, other unhelpful narratives do we dwell on? So what are some of those negative things that we dwell on? Or thoughts that we allow to hold us back? And so deal with our own mental condition. And then secondly, about regarding affectivity, what feelings are we struggling against? Okay. Okay, so you can look at that, and then
Pasok mo yung dulo nito. Yung dulo niya, yan, pasok.
Okay, and then third is what life draining hours are we doing, and then what challenging situations are we avoiding. Okay, you can since this is something to do with stress, you can make use of this, as your stress inventory. What are some of the identified distressful situation? Who is or who are involved, and then how frequent, degree of control, and how do we deal with that, So it is good, and it will be helpful if you can also make your own stress inventory. Like for example, who are involved? Is your person involved? Are your parents involved? Conquerors involved? Siblings? Others? Probably the others may include those working in the office. And how frequent? Is it always, often, seldom? What about the degree of control? Is this high degree of control, moderate, or no control at all? Or how do you deal with that? Do you engage in anger? Do you ignore? Do you have sense of humor? Do you pray? Do you have depression? You have so it's good. This will be really be helpful, no, in making our own stress inventory. This may be a very short test to determine if you are in control of stress or if because stress is controlling you. Know, like for example, number one, when I feel agitated, do I know how to quickly calm and soothe myself? Can I easily let go of my anger or any negative emotions? Can I turn to others to help me calm down and feel better? When I come home at night, do I walk in the door feeling alert and relaxed? Am I seldom distracted or moody? Am I able to recognize upsets that others seem to be experiencing? Do I easily turn to significant others, friends, family, or community members for a calming influence? When my energy is low, do I know how to boost it? Do I consider my role as an act of love and service rather than simply a work? Do I bring my stresses into prayer and get energized through meditation or contemplative silence? Now, if your answers to these are all yes, then well, you are not really you are able to have a control of this stress, no, or you're able to live with it. But if your answers are mostly no, well, it's good to re-examine, no, how you are dealing with your own stress. No, so how much stress is too much? Because of the widespread damage stress can cause, it is important to know your own limit. But just as how much stress is too much differs from person to person, some can really manage the stress, while others grumble at the slightest obstacle or frustration. Some people even seem to thrive on the excitement and the challenge of a high stress lifestyle. But since we enter into new normal with stress around, we must learn to live with it. So the things that influence your stress tolerance level. So what are those? First of all, your support network. It's good if you can have a support network. Like when you have a good in the family, you're able to have time to talk with each other. Then that can help. Consider that the family can also be your support network, you know, or the circle of friends. Your sense of control, your attitude and outlook, your ability to deal with your emotions, your knowledge and preparation. Now, how to live with stress? This must be our basic response. The moment stress takes its toll on us, no? We must know, first of all, when, as the saying goes, we know how to stop, we know how to look, we know how to listen, and above all, we know how to pray. Okay, some important reminders or cautions when you are having stress. First, do not make big decisions when you are in the stress. For sure, I always tell I used to tell my students now, when you are at the height of emotion, do not make a decision, because any decision made at the height of emotion is very often regrettable. Why? Because you are not properly, you are not in your proper dispositions. And then do not blame others. Do not spend your energy complaining, and do not try a quick fix. No? One example of quick fix would be when you're stressed. There are people when they are stressed, they engage in drinking, they engage in smoking, they engage in some they might think initially as helpful way to cope with stress, but in the long run, they hope they have negative effects. No? So an effective self-care program can help in living with stress. So if you think that you have some stress management ways, no, which you have proven effective, then just continue with that. No? But to be able to live with stress in life, we must create a holistic program addressing the physical strength, the emotional strength, the mental attitude, and the psycho-spiritual resources. No? So like, for example, this is coming from Dennis Parks, no, helping clients manage stress. No? So some health guidelines. No? Moderate exercise 2 or 3 times a week. Daily breakfast, 3 meals a day at regular times, and no snacks in between. No junk foods. No smoking, no alcohol. Adequate sleep. Limit consumption of foods containing sugar. Choose foods made of whole grains instead of refined flour. Limit consumption of caffeine. Uh, Fresh fruits and vegetables every day. Regular scheduled times for relaxation and leisure, and moderate weight. So that's actually here. It is from the physical. Now, what about the mental attitude? So let us go through following guidelines for a stress-free living and see if you can begin to adapt them. Now, this is from Wolfull and Richardson in the book Stress, Sanity, and Survival. So number one guideline, it is not what happens to us, but our perceptions, belief, and what we tell ourselves about what happens to us that produce stressful emotions. No? Guideline 2, pursuing happiness leads us to worry how happy we are, hence to stress and self-preoccupation. It must be remembered that happiness is always a byproduct of other activities. Do those things which enable you to focus on and enjoy activity itself rather than focus on how well you are performing or what your activity will bring you. Find something other than yourself and your achievements to care about and believe in. Learn to recognize and accept both your personal shortcomings and lack of control over what will ultimately happen to you. Develop an unhostile, benevolent sense of humor. Learning to laugh at oneself brings relief from tension and facilitates self-acceptance. Learn to tolerate and forgive both yourself and others. Intolerance of self leads to stress, tension, and slow self-esteem. Intolerance of others leads to blame and anger. Number 8, learn to see the world and yourself through the eyes of others. Number 9, you are responsible for your own happiness. No other people can make you happy and secure. A low-stress lifestyle is reasonably efficient and well managed. Laziness, sloppiness, and self-indulgence creates more stress. Number 11, most good things in life are fleeting and transitory. Enjoy and savor them. Don't waste time looking for the happy ending to all your troubles. And guideline 12, to focus on the past is to rob the present of its joy and vitality. As Albert Ellis of the Rational Emotive Therapy said, we begin to have problems because of the way we think about life, other people, and about situations. Sometimes it begins with, with a thought. No? And it's good if we are to go back to the past, precisely because we want to learn from the past. But we should never live in the past. Instead, we have to move forward. No? As Pope Francis would say, when we look back, let us look back with gratitude. And when we look forward, we must look forward with hope. And when we live our life at present, let us live it with passion. Beautiful. So it's not the immediate situation we are in that is causing us stress, but the way we perceive it. And it's not the actual situation, rather it is our thoughts, no? Automatic thoughts, which gives rise to the way we feel emotionally, the way we behave, the way we feel physically, no? From Dr. Aaron Beck, of the Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. So, and then the emotional strength. Are we relaxed as persons? Can we take things as they come without panicking? Are we able to get hold of ourselves, especially in stressful situations or fatigue? So to be strong emotionally in living with stress, we must learn to find inner strength from within. A way towards this is to learn the art of relaxation. So how do you do your relaxation, brothers and sisters? No? Relaxation response or flow experiences and positive addictions. No? When we speak about flow experiences, these are activities that cause individuals to lose all sense of self, time, and external world. No? These experiences involve focusing attention on a task that uses one's capacities but not exceed their limits. Often the flow experiences are accompanied by a sense of ecstasy or contentment. If you have when you are doing something and you just enjoy it, no, and losing a sense of time, then that is considered to be a flow experience, no? Like cooking, praying. Sample of flow experiences would be celebrating the sacraments, no? least for us priests, no? Reading inspirational book or gardening, writing, cooking, no? Among others. And positive addictions, these refer to activities that are both satisfying, no? And uh, can bring joy to us. No? Okay, while negative, okay. So what about spiritual strength? We maintain a prayer program. Keep the faith and prayer in touch with the realities around us. Have a regular spiritual reading and reflection. Daily Eucharistic prayer or celebration, Lectio Divina, among others. So aim for a healthier, balanced life. No? So let us try to look at Jesus, for example. How did Jesus live with the stress? Let us look at Jesus, how he manages or he managed his stress. No, so first we can look at him as spending plenty of quiet time alone. He prayed alone in the mountain. He spent the night in prayer before choosing his disciples, and he was transformed in prayer at the Transfiguration. And then number two is recharging batteries daily. Holding one focused, connected, and meaningful conversation. Jesus had friends, no? Like some of the friends mentioned in the Gospels are Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. No, also he had a time with his disciples. No, and then keeping a good sense of humor. When you say a good sense of humor, this is the capacity to look at the good and the positive side of life. No, this is what it means to have a sense of humor. When you are able to look at the good and the positive side of life. Like say Matthew, in Matthew chapter 11, verses 28-30, and Jesus assures us that when we are in stress, he's ready to take us, because as he said, come to me, all of you who work hard and carry heavy burdens, and I will refresh you. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble of heart, and you will find rest. For my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Okay. Just a short exercise. Can you read this, brothers and sisters, while I'm taking my sip of water? Okay. Okay. One question. How many F's do you find in this statement? How many F's? How many F's? If you read it the first time, you might probably just encounter 3 F's. But if you read again, there is another one that makes 4. If you read again, there's another one that makes 5. You read again, you find another F that makes 6. Actually, there are 6 F's in the statement. But if you read again and you find another F, that is what we call optical illusion. So it's more just in your mind. Okay, so this activity tells us that if we want to understand a situation, we must read, we must study not only once, but a few times. Or better still, not just study, but reflect or discern. That is the word I'd like to introduce now. A word we use in spiritual life, discern. So like, for example, if you look at your life only once, you see only failures, your failures and the failures of others. When you are looking at life once, you see you're fatigued or you are frustrated. But if you look at your life not only once, but twice or thrice, reflect, engage in reflection, discernment. In spite of failures, you see reasons to feel fulfilled. In spite of fatigue, there are reasons to celebrate. And in spite of frustration, you have your faith that keeps you moving. And our faith makes us to be resilient. Now, faced with pandemic crisis, how do you address your own crisis? Crisis, how do we understand it? So we say we are in pandemic crisis. So how do we understand crisis? And what is happening to the body, to the mind, to the heart, and the spirit because of this crisis? So what is crisis? In Chinese language, the word crisis is composed of 2 characters, one representing danger and the other opportunity. But from the Greek word crisis, it is a crossroad. It's a turning point. It's a decisive moment. it is a time for discernment. So that is what this is the spiritual dimension, no, of what I am introducing now to you, how to deal with the crisis. So we need to have discernment. Now, when we are in this crisis situation, there is a call for us to discern. And what are we to discern? First, we have to discern our interiority. When we speak of interiority, it speaks about thoughts and feelings, no? That that cross our mind, no? That cross our heart. There, thoughts and feelings do happen when we are in a crisis. We may be feeling, what do we feel? We may be feeling challenged, or we may be feeling lonely, or we may be feeling, sometimes most of the feelings we may have, maybe if not challenging, can just be negative. So, but it's good that we are in touch with ourselves and ask, what is this crisis making me feel? What is this crisis making me think? So, like for those who have really been inflicted, no, with the virus, I know there are probably some of you may have been found positive of COVID-19, and what have been the thoughts and feelings, no? When you had that, no? And then we move to discernment of meaning. So we try to engage in knowing and discovering learnings, realizations about the crisis that we are faced with. So what meaning, what realization do we discover? What learnings that we gather? And then later on, discernment of values. So faced with a crisis, what do we consider to be most important? Now we are not just as I mentioned to you earlier about possessions, titles. They don't mean anything at all. When you are coming close to death, everything is changed. And then so discernment of values, the value of relationship, the value of life, and then discernment of God's presence. We believe that God is very much present in what's happening. At times we believe that if things that are happening as they are, God must have a reason why He allows them to happen. And not only His presence is there, but He is also making us to know and to discover what is really His will for each one of us. What is the will of God for the family, the will of God for the community, the will of God for the country, and the will of God for the entire humanity. Now, I don't know if you are able to read this, because it's, the words are quite small. But who do I want to be during COVID-19? I have here 4 zones. Actually, and then I have the ultimate goal. When we are in the COVID, we might be just confined in the fear zone. Perhaps some of us may have experienced just being in the fear zone, afraid of what could possibly happen as I faced the COVID-19. But from fear zone, we have to move from the learning zone. You see that there are changes that are happening when you are moving from fear zone to learning zone. Like in the fear zone, I grab food, toilet paper, medication that I do not need. There are people who are hoarding so many medical equipments. I spread emotions related to fear and anger. I complain frequently. I forward all messages I receive. I get mad easily. This is some of the signs when you are in the fear zone. But then you have to move to the learning zone. And when you say in the learning zone, your perspective is changed. I start to give up what I cannot control. I stop compulsively consuming what hurts me, from food to news. I identify my emotions. I become aware of the situation. I evaluate myself. I recognize that we are all trying to do our best. This is in the learning zone. And then from the learning zone, we move to the growth zone. Now, this is another area where our perspective is expanding. So in the growth zone, I think of the others and I see and see how to help them. I make my talents available to the others. I live in the present and focus on the future. I am empathic with myself and others. I thank and appreciate others. I keep a happy and emotional state. I look for a way to adapt to new changes. I practice quietude, patience, relationship. You see, the fear zone, the learning zone, the growth zone. But then still, there is still a zone that we have to enter, and I call this the mystical zone. And in the mystical zone, my perspective is much broader, and I connect my experience with my experience of God. So, like in the Acts of the Apostles, in God we live and move and have our being. I share in God's mission. I live in communion with others. In my vulnerability, I experience God's strength. I experience God's saving love in the sacrament. I see God in others. I need not fear as God is at my side. You see this experience now in the mystical zone. You know that this fear zone, learning zone, and growth zone and mystical zone are actually different zones that have been experienced by notable persons in the Old and in the New Testament, like Abraham, Moses, no, and Saint Paul. And this fear zone can be some kind of an awakening experience. No? This learning zone can be like a purification experience, and this growth zone can become a illuminating experience, leading to mysticism. And all of this moves to the ultimate goal, which is union with God and union with all creation. You see how beautiful it is, no? If we are to look at this journey that that is provided us, no? If we are in an experience that we are not very sure about, no? So however, it is important that we acknowledge where we are and what situation we are in. It is important to begin with awareness and acceptance for where we are. No? Now, how can you? We have been talking about how we can help ourselves. No? But I would like just to end with how can we help anyone who may be experiencing health problem, particularly mental health problem. By the way, brothers and sisters, there are so many who are now experiencing tremendous mental health problem. If we are telling that the medical practitioners are the frontliners, we can also say side by side with the medical health workers are the mental health workers. No? In fact, there has been a request coming from the IATF, no? If the church can help in any way as in trying to reach out to people who are experiencing so much anxiety, depression leading to suicide, because there has been an observation of a growing number of people who are committing suicide during this time of pandemic. So how can we help? Well, we can help by, first of all, listening. Let us listen. It's important that we listen to someone who may be having problems. Now, there are people who may not be that articulate, expressing how they feel. So, but we have to be very observant. Like members of the family. If you see a member of the family who may be manifesting some behavior that is unusual, I think that is a sign that we need to just reach out and talk. And then later on, to have time to spend some time with that person, and offer to take them out, or well, actually now it's difficult to be out of home, but at least just to have time for a meaningful encounter. And then later on, we try to help them by providing them the support that they need, and then later on to remind them that you are there for them, or we are for them. Our time, we are available for them if they need us. No? And then number 5 is to encourage them, to be there to offer encouragement and praise. No? This is the time that we have to be very affirming of family members, no? Particularly because we are always in the family, so we have to be very affirming, like saying the assuring words of "I love you," "I care about you," "I understand you." These are very affirming words that it can help people who may be having some problems. No? And then organize, no? Help them to organize their time and balance work and home life. For example, it's good that the family decides to have a common schedule of activities, and then try to find some time to learn, no? To learn about, especially if you are not very familiar with how to help, for example, parents not familiar with trying how to help their own children. It's good to learn, no? Some art of exploring areas of engagement, of reaching out, and then do not pressure them, no? To talk if they are not willing. Don't pressure them, because sometimes when we pressure people, we unconsciously increase, no, their level of anxiety, and then they make some activities that they really enjoy doing. I know of some families, they agree to play together, like cards, or they play whatever creative, appropriate games, that can be done at home, and then continue your connection. Okay, so it's good that I give you some points for reflection. Like for example, the discernment of interiority. What have been my dominant thoughts and feelings during this time of pandemic? And then discernment of meaning. What are my most significant learnings and realizations? Discernment of values. What values have surfaced that I need to pursue? And then discernment of God's presence. How does God manifest His presence during this crisis? And discernment of God's will is where God is leading me right now. Okay, this is just a final thought. No, the irony of the times. The world today is filled with contradiction. A world held hostage by this COVID-19 affliction. No? Have you noticed the air is purer, but wearing a mask is mandatory? Roads are empty, but it is impossible to go on long drives. People have clean hands, but there is a ban on shaking hands. Friends have time to sit together, but they cannot get together. The cook inside you has become better, but you cannot invite anyone to lunch or dinner. Every Monday, the heart longs for the office, but the weekend does not seem to end. Those who have money have no way to spend it. Those who don't have money have no way to earn it. There is enough time on hand, but you cannot fulfill your dreams. The culprit is all around, but cannot be seen. If someone leaves this world, he cannot be a Jew. The earth keeps spinning, but the world remains at standstill. We live in fear of terrorism, but now even terrorists live in fear. We cannot gather to worship and pray, but more and more people worship each and every day. We are separated by necessity, but share a common destiny. That is to live in a world full of irony. But this is also a time that tests our faith. Not knowing His purpose for this universal threat, I'd like to believe that this is all a part of God's plan, that we may finally come together and become as one, coming together in mission. By the way, I do not know who wrote this, no, but it was just sent also by a friend. No? So we don't know what tomorrow will bring. So don't stay angry for too long. Learn to forgive and love with all your heart. Don't worry about the people who don't like you. Enjoy the ones who love you. So this is just how do you call this? So we are allowed to go. We are allowed back to work, but you've got to remember to avoid men. Avoid touching your mouth, your eyes, your nose. No? Instead, follow women. Always women are okay. Wash your hands, obey social distancing, mask up, exercise, and eat well, and no unnecessary traveling. Okay. Okay. So be informed, be prepared, be smart, be safe, be ready to. Okay. So stay home and stay safe. No? So that's all I would like to share with you, brothers and sisters. No? So I stop my sharing. If you have some questions to ask, I will be more than willing to accept them.
Okay, thank you very much, Father Vic. Can we give him a big hand? palakpakan po natin si Father Vic. Okay.
Hey, thank you po.
So for questions, you can actually use the chat box, but for the others, you can please just unmute your microphone if you have any questions for Father V. Okay, on our chat box, as devoted Catholics, many of us are very optimistic. How do we deal with people who is under stress without turning our optimism into toxic positivity, sorry.
Pakiulit nga, Mia, yung question. Alam mo kasi hindi ko
Okay. Sige.
Can you
Okay,
forward
Father.
can you forward the question?
Actually, Father, it's in our group
Your
chat
box.
box.
Okay. Sige.
Yes,
so,
Father.
I will appreciate it. Can you be, if you can just repeat it, no?
Yes, po. Okay. So this is from the Ihmp SOCCOM. As devoted Catholics, many of us are very optimistic. How do we deal with people who is under stress without turning our optimism into toxic positivity? Hello, Father Vic, can you hear us?
Okay, now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Father.
Okay. It's good to be optimistic, no? But to be optimistic would require, first of all, a positive, a positive paradigm or a positive outlook, no? So we have, first of all, to maintain this positive perspective, because as we deal with people who may be under stress, consider that there is also what we call a kind of we call it a compassion fatigue. You know what you mean by compassion fatigue? We also get affected by people who may be under stress. Like if members of the family are under stress or are in stress, we can also be affected by them. So it is good to maintain our composure, meaning to say we have to understand our um, our capacities, no, our resources, because when we are dealing with people who are under stress, they can also affect us, no, in any way. So it is good uh, to maintain our own positive disposition as we deal with them, no? Because usually people who are under stress uh, may be loaded with so many psychological, emotional burdens, no? And it is good to, if we are willing to really help, we have to just listen. First of all, we have to be honest. First of all, we have to listen. But if we observe that we are not, in a position to really engage, no, because we are already also affected by them, then probably it's good to find another person who can help that person better than we can do to help, no? Because it may happen that much as we try to help, but we are not resourceful enough, or we may not have the enough resources to help other people who may be in a very difficult situation. So I think it will help if we can if we start first of all with ourselves, no? And if we can start, we can create some kind of a group support among ourselves, no? So this question that I find is has many nuances, no? But then anyway. And then there's another one. In this pandemic, how can I maintain social connections? By the way, when I feel the social media nowadays is very much used. No? Like for example, now we are able to communicate, no? Using this Zoom. It's much easier now to call for a meeting by using the Zoom or these social media facilities. No, I am into a lot of meetings and I have difficulty meeting people because of the distances. Now it's much easier. Why? Because I just schedule a meeting and then just open your laptop or you open your cell phone, open your computer, and then you have everybody on the screen, no? Just like what's happening now. We are on the screen and it's much easier. So the social connection is much easier now. No? Of course, there is no physical, what do you call that? Physical connections, no? But at least we're able to see each other. In fact, now there is available online counseling services, and I understand that there are people who want to have some say counseling need are properly attended to by using the social media like this one.
Okay. This is actually true that even if we're far apart, we became actually closer just because of the social media. Okay, any other questions? You may use a chat box for your questions or reflections. I'm also monitoring our viewers from Facebook and YouTube. So you may actually type your questions on our Facebook page. Okay, from Ronald Ramirez. Can a person suffer from stress without presenting external symptoms? What other types of reactions can appear socially when exposed under the pressure of stress?
By the way, there are people who can fake, no? They can fake their personal condition. But I tell you, if you're suffering from stress, no, the stress that you experience will be manifested consciously or unconsciously. As I presented to you earlier, no, the effects on us, no, of stress, they can manifest in the body. They can manifest in our behavior. The stress can be manifested in the way we deal with people. In fact, when one is under stress, no, there are some external manifestations. No, um, uh, one of the common manifestation of stress is the person becomes very moody. No, I don't know if you are if a person who is stressed can fake, no, the moodiness. No, well, there are people who may be good at faking their behaviors, but how long will you fake your behaviors? Uh, at times, without our knowing, we are already expressing that we are in fact under stress. No? So we cannot fake it. We cannot hide it. No, we cannot keep it uh, from others. There is the stress will find a way to be expressed. No? And for those who are under stress, it will be helpful just to express it, no? To just appropriately, by the way, appropriate expression, because there are people who are under stress, they just shout, no, and they shout at anybody, no, but this is not appropriate because sometimes people cannot understand you. Why are you shouting? You cannot say, I'm shouting because I'm stressed, no. Of course, people will not. There are people who cannot just understand, when one is under stress. But there are people, as I said, there may be some. Um, there are people who may not be able to may not be able to express, but stress will just come out. No, sometimes the irritation in the skin can be a cause of stress. No? So there are manifestations. This is what we call somatization. It is somatized. When you say somatization, it means it is manifested in the body, like headache. No?
Do we have other questions? I'm moving from screen to screen, so if you have any questions, you may use a raise your hand icon, or you may actually just ask the question and unmute your microphone. Okay, from the SOCCOM, once again, uh, basically just to, if you need to ask any questions, so please unmute your microphone.
By the way, we are using English because we have non-Filipino participants here, no? Yeah.
As actually we have participants from from the religious order from different countries. So that's the reason why we're using the English medium. Any other reactions? Okay, this is actually a very timely talk that Father Vic gave us. We know that we've seen a lot and read a lot about how we can cope with this pandemic, but this is actually one of the things that we still have to be reminded of. Okay, and it was a good thing that Father Vic also mentioned about keeping us physically healthy. Okay, so the food that we eat actually causes us to have a better well-being, and even exercising. Um, we know that it releases a lot of endorphins that make us feel happy. Okay, so any other questions from our participants? At the moment, we actually have around 87 participants, both from our Zoom group chat, from Facebook Live, and also from YouTube. So this is actually the largest group that we've had since we started with the new evangelization series. So thank you very much, Father Vic, because you are a crowd drawer. You're very popular.
Hindi naman nga.
You have a,
Na-chismis lang yan.
Yeah.
Na-chismis.
you have a big fan base.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Charm, do you have a question, or you're just clapping your hands?
Probably, if there are those of you who have no questions at all, perhaps you have some insight, no?
Yes.
You may have some insight or realization coming from the talk I gave you. You may just want to share your own insight in at least with the topic that I shared with you, no? Living with stress during this pandemic crisis. So like for example, it's good to ask yourselves, no, how are you able to live in this time of crisis? How are you able to live, in this time of crisis?
Sister, you're raising your hand, sister.
I just thought, no? Father was mentioning about discerning meaning.
Yes.
Discerning meaning. I think really, if we find meaning in what is happening to us, then our stress somehow is managed also. We are able to live with stress because we know why we are living. No? I mean, there is meaning and purpose in what is, we can find meaning in what is happening. And so even if it's very tiring and challenging, I'm able to live with it because I find meaning in life.
Yeah.
There is congruence in that.
Actually, just following up what Sister just mentioned, this is one of my favorite quotations. It's actually from a philosopher by the name of Friedrich Nietzsche, who once said, and I love this his words. He said, "A person who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow." a person who has a why to live for can deal with actually I use it if you say it in Tagalog it's good to say it no like in Tagalog we say ang isang taong nabubuhay na may kahulugan lahat nakakayanan lahat ang taong nabubuhay na may kahulugan lahat nakakayanan. So in this time of crisis, if we know the reason and the meaning of this crisis, especially if we know that God must have a reason for this, then we will be able to live anyhow. I think that is the message there. So that's why this pandemic crisis is a call to really make a discernment. We have to make a discernment. No? I mean, the family members should come together to pray and really to discern together, and then ask one another, what is your take of this pandemic crisis? Now, what meaning do you get, or what meaning do you have, no? Or what learning or realization do you have about this pandemic? It's good to invite family members to engage in this some kind of a discernment mode, no? And we need that. It's not only in religious communities, but since family members have more time to be together, it's good to share. How do you deal with the pandemic? What meaning, realization do you have? No? I know that many family members they really have a lot of time together. No? For them, for some, it's a good moment, but for some, it is a very challenging moment. No?
Yes.
Like there are, I know, there was a young person who mentioned that I am very thankful, and she said this, She said this to her mom. She said, I'm very thankful about this pandemic crisis because I have more time with my mother. Why? Because the mother had not much time with her. So now with the pandemic, he said, I am very grateful that we are in a crisis like this because I see my mom every day. We talk together, we eat together, we work together. I know there are some children would say that. Perhaps they would not say that directly to their parents, but deep inside they are very happy that their parents are there. I don't know if their parents feel the same thing. Although there are some husbands and wives, they are not used to see each other. Now they have more time to see each other. I don't know if that is good or that is bad. Depends. Depends on how they look at each other.
Father, there's a very important question here from Ronald Ramirez. What do you think of the suicide cases in the church?
When we say suicide cases, I don't know, probably maybe mentioning about, I don't know if this question has something to do with, well, of course, there's a growing rise of suicide cases among people, among young people. This is what we call the highly vulnerable group, young people, the millennials, the Generation Z, but also this is also happening among older ones. It may be happening among religious, may be happening among priests. I do not have actually concrete case or cases of, I only, they are just hearsays, but I don't know if they are really true or not about priests committing suicide or religious committing suicide. But for one, we are familiar with young people, for example, even among millennials who are committing suicide. Now, the reason is compounded. It's very compounded. They may have some history of perhaps abuse, history of brokenness, and that they are not able to deal with their own case, and they don't feel that they feel that they are not understood, they feel that they are not loved, they feel that they are discriminated or isolated. So they do not have anyone to turn to, not to open up their problems. So what happens? They just take that to themselves. So they take their own life. To tell you, one who is in a situation of depression, is very vulnerable to suicide, because it's not that because they want to die. It's not that. We have to understand this. People who commit suicide they do not really want to die. No. It's, the reason why they commit suicide is because they cannot bear the pain of what they're going through. So suicide is just the last act of avoiding the pain. That is the reason why people commit suicide, because they cannot bear the pain. I have encountered priest, no? Well, I know of a priest who opened up to me. He said, I know that he is well, well. Fortunately, he is already over with it, no, and he's still alive, no. But when he was, in the moment of depression, he was telling me honestly, he said, I feel like I want to die because I cannot bear the pain of this depression. I cannot bear the pain. So it's more about facing the pain, and because they cannot deal with the pain so much, so they want to die. So the death is just the last act, no, of avoiding the pain. So that's why we have to understand people who are under depression. So usually there are signs, no? That's why if we see people under depression, these people